Redline Logbook here for Chapter 33 of Wistoria. And we start off where we left off with Kurtz interrupting Will being able to pick his faction. And as you can imagine, Elfie gets pissed off about this and argues that Will has proven himself and this is fine now. But Kurtz's response is very simple. He got in because he was able to kill the Devon, and that was like a consolation prize. But for him to join a faction, that is unacceptable. As such, he should remain as a colorless at the bottom of the tower. He then summons 3 gel-like snake creatures, and he explains that these things are extremely weak to magic. And in fact, he shoots one with a low-level spell and it instantly dies. But their purpose is to suppress dwarfs. As such, even though they can be killed by low-level magic, they are completely unaffected by physical attack. And so Will must prove that he can defeat these things with magic and not use someone else's magic like he did the golems. Will, of course, slices through them and they just regenerate. And this happens over and over again, till at a certain point he decides to go for their core. Unfortunately, their core is also gel-like, and so it's able to splash and move around, and he's unable to pierce it. This actually leads to Kurtz insulting Will, saying that this is the tower, the world of magic, and it's insulting that he would think something so simplistic would kill the monster. These things are meant to defeat dwarves. As such, there are contingency plans against such a thing, like just being able to destroy a core. The other 2 in the background, who are unnamed, who are colorless, start to freak out because in their eyes this is also a test for them, and they don't want to fail, so they decide to try to help out Will. But that's when Kurtz decides to just blast them with magic, and he straight up says the test is already over. This is just Will's execution. They've already failed. They can stay out of this. Of course, Thawne is pissed because he wants to defeat Will fair and square, and the idea of him being kept at the bottom because of something as stupid as this really pisses him off. In fact, it looks like Thawne is about to straight up kill Kurtz. At a certain point, one of the monsters knock Will away, but Will isn't giving up. He starts to stand back up, but that's when Kurtz just dissolves the monsters and declares that it's pointless to keep going forward. Kurtz says that the power of the 5th element is very important and impressive, and it will help them in the future, help the mages specifically in the future. And so he should stay in the bottom floor and be studied. So this way they can master the power of the 5th element. Basically what Kurtz is saying is he wants to turn Will into a guinea pig and not give him a chance to contribute himself. Alfie's rage starts to get overwhelming, and she actually starts to freeze everything below her. In fact, her entire team begins to back away in fear. Karya tells her to stop acting like a child and calm down, but she doesn't care. In fact, she's on the verge of killing Kurtz. And when I say killing him, I mean all of her rage and anger is directed directly at him. But that's when Zero tells them both to stop being bitches and to calm down, because this isn't the last test. There's another one coming up very soon. Curie then points out that there's actually a second test that everyone can take to try to get into the faction, and this will most likely involve all those other people that are also colorless that are currently waiting in the first floor. It's supposed to happen in 6 months, but because of the fight that happened at the festival, each faction's numbers have heavily dwindled. As such, they need to restore them. And so the next competition to move up will be in 1 week. And of course, Will be able to use this to advance, because all the tower cares about is strength. It doesn't matter what Kurtz says. As long as Will can prove himself, he will move up. And that's when the rest of the Majawanda agree with this, because that's how they moved up after all. Sarissa then starts bowing and thanking Kiri over and over again because she just calmed down Elfie for her. The Majawanda obviously decide that everything is done now, so they start to leave with their students. All of Will's friends and Elfie are obviously freaking out because everything was decided in a manner they all disagree with, but there's nothing they can do. They just slowly disappear, leaving Will, Julius, and the other 2 alone. Julius then immediately went, okay, we have a week to prepare. So wait, are you crying, Will? And then Will actually starts laughing, not crying. And the reason is because Will worked, he did all of that, he got to where he had to be, he finally got to the tower, he's standing next to Elfie, and then he's just unfairly just shoved back down. And he just thinks that's just a cruel joke. But Will's been dealing with that in his entire life, so he decides he's going to overcome this. That's when we go over to Zero and his advisor, Guilford. And Guilford actually asked him, why didn't you try to claim the boy? He seemed like the kind of type that you would like. And that's when Zero gives a pat on the head and says, you still don't get me. Of course I like him. Of course he's strong. No one could get this far without being strong. And so basically, Zero from the very beginning knew that Will wasn't going to be allowed to move up at this moment, which is why he never even tried to make his claim. He knew from the very beginning it would have to be in the second tournament, which means Zero, this whole plan is going after Will. He's going to try to steal him from Elfie, but he's planning on waiting and biding his time for when he gets the chance to do so, which will be, you know, at the end of the second tournament. Which would be funny because that would mean that instead of going with Elfie and Julius, Will would be going with Liana and Zero. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give it a thumbs up so you can enjoy more with story and other anime things. Thank you and have a great day.